We see the shadows, we hear the voices, we know we are not alone in this universe. All of these stories, from around the world, creates the Curious Narrative with Josh.
Good evening and welcome to the Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. I'm Josh, and tonight we're talking all about ghosts. In just a few moments, I'll be joined by Curtis from a Saskatchewan-based paranormal investigation team known as Purgatory Adventures. And he's got some pretty cool stories to tell. I think you're going to enjoy it. We're going to talk to Curtis about his adventures throughout Saskatchewan as a paranormal investigator. He's going to tell us about some of maybe his spookiest adventures. He's going to talk about some of the most haunted locations that he's investigated. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. So I hope you'll stick around and join us. But I thought maybe it would make sense for me to get things started tonight by telling you a story. And, I guess we could start off by saying for as long as there have been people, there have been tales about ghosts. There are countless stories from all over the world about spiritual entities who have returned following their death. Sometimes they return to the scene of their death. Other times it's to a location that carried significance to the spirit when they were alive. Occasionally, maybe the spirit just picks a spot it likes and decides to put down roots. But whatever the case may be, many of us have had experiences that leave us baffled, confused, and sometimes scared. So here's where my story comes in. Several years ago, I had the opportunity to participate in a handful of paranormal investigations. And on at least one occasion, I will admit it, full transparency here, I was quite terrified by this experience. So I thought that's the story that I'll share with you today. It seemed appropriate considering our topic. And so this is my experience. It was a summer day. I remember it being extremely hot and very, very humid. As you can imagine, I was quite excited to be spending one of the hottest days of the year in a 100-year-old farmhouse that lacked the luxury of air conditioning. But despite the heat, we began to set up and prepare for that night's investigation. With any investigation that we would do, one of the first things that our lead investigator would do was a walkthrough of the location. This would give him a chance to take a thorough look at the building and get a feel for the space, kind of listen to the building, hear what creaks and groans you get. Especially in that type of weather environment too, there are so many creaks and pops and sounds and groans and moans that come along that it's worth spending a little bit of time in there just to get a feel for the space. Now, this particular house, it was equipped with an unfinished attic, so it was an old farmhouse. As you can imagine, I think we can all visualize what the unfinished attic space would look like, and it was accessible via a normal interior door. So basically, the same type of door that you would see on one of the bedrooms in the house is exactly what you would see leading up to the attic. Since the attic was unused, the door leading up to the attic was actually kept locked, and we had to use an old skeleton key to unlock the door. So once we actually were able to get the door unlocked, we headed upstairs just to do kind of a once-over, to do a quick inspection. We were looking specifically for signs of animals that could be up there, living in the space that, maybe could contaminate evidence or make sounds that people might contribute to a ghost or attribute to a ghost. We were also looking for anything like broken windows that maybe could, create a breeze that might be felt on the floors below. Anything like that, that's kind of what we were looking for. And everything checked out in the attic. There was nothing up there of concern. So once we did our inspection of the attic, back downstairs we went. So another thing that's important to note about this whole story, and I vividly remember this, because of the weather conditions, the doors in the house were swollen from the humidity, and particularly this attic door in the upper right-hand corner. I remember it seemed to really stick in that part of the door when that door connected with the door frame. And I remember we kind of had to pound on that corner of the door to get it to close, which we did. Eventually we got the door closed, and I was pretty confident that it wasn't going to go anywhere. Fast forward a few hours, the sun goes down. We've split into small teams to investigate the farmhouse, as well as other buildings on the property. Me and a fellow investigator, we head into the farmhouse and we're walking around with some of the tools of the trade. I think if you've watched any of the ghost hunting shows on TV, you've probably seen some of these tools, things like the K2 meter, which is the one tool that we had with us. And we also had an audio recorder because our plan was to do an EVP session, try and pick up some EVPs through the recorder in this house. We also had set up stationary infrared cameras throughout the house, which again was all set up to try and capture as much evidence as possible. And we head up to the second floor of the house and we begin to kind of mosey around the floor. We're going in and out of all of the bedrooms, just kind of observing the space, seeing what's there. Eventually we settled on a room and we decided to begin our EVP session. So my partner, she takes a seat on the floor of the bedroom and we're surrounded by toys. This room is a kid's room, so it's, there's toys everywhere. The floor is creaking quite a bit as she sits down, and in an effort to try and keep our evidence clean and to be able to easily identify things, she's calling out the sounds that we're hearing. So like, the floor is creaking, the floor is popping, so that when evidence review took place, we could identify those sounds. I found a spot where I thought I wanted to sit, so I'm about to take a seat. And as I'm sitting down, my bum does not even hit the floor, and all of a sudden, well, actually, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. First, my partner asks if there's anybody here with us, can you push these toys across the floor? I'm not expecting anything to happen. And as I had mentioned earlier, I was about to take a seat on the floor when all of a sudden, boom, we heard this sound and it scared the bejesus out of me. We did not see any toys move across the floor, but we heard this sound, and I struggled to describe what that sound it was and what it sounded like. And in that moment, it sounded a lot like a bang, and it was terrifying. I was sweating bullets. And I don't think it was just because it was, 40 degrees in the house. My partner, she remained surprisingly calm, and she was under the impression that one of the other investigators had entered the house. So I'm trying to be brave and I call out, hello. But I think anybody who heard me could hear the fear in my voice. I grabbed my walkie-talkie and I radioed the other teams to see if somebody had entered the house. And I'm not getting any response. At this point, I'm still pretty freaked out and I'm thinking, great, I'm stuck in the house with who knows what, and my radio's dead. So I grabbed the radio for a second time. I try to radio the other teams and I finally got a response. And the response that I got was that no, nobody else had entered the house. It was still just me and my partner. So after what seemed like hours, I regained a little bit of my composure, and my partner, still, cool as a cucumber. We came out of the room, and the first thing that we noticed was the one thing that was very clearly out of place. And I bet you're asking, what was that? Well, it was the attic door. That attic door was wide open. And again, I presume that's the sound that we heard, was that door being forced open. We know that it was closed when we started our EVP session, though, because if the door had been open, it would have blocked one of the bedroom doorways that we had passed through just a few moments beforehand. Eventually, we went outside. The other teams had gathered around the area. They had noticed the shakiness in my voice over the radio, so they came to check and make sure that everybody was okay. We listened to the audio again, and when we listened to the audio, I realized what felt like minutes or hours in the moment actually really played out over maybe a 30-second period. And when we listened to the audio, the sound was different. And I guess that could be attributed rather to the way the audio picked up the sound in the environment. But it sounded almost like a scratching or a scraping sound. And yeah, it definitely was one of the scariest experiences that I had. Baffling, quite a memorable experience for sure. The kicker, though, is that I don't have access to any of that information or any of that evidence anymore. I reached out to the investigators quite a while ago to see if I could get some, a copy of it. And unfortunately, I did not get a response because I would have loved to have shared that audio here tonight. And sadly, while we did have cameras in the house, none of them captured the door opening because none of the cameras were pointed at that door. And here we are, probably close to 10 years later. I still don't have an explanation for what I heard. I do like to joke that a ghost had been locked in that attic for a long time and finally saw the chance to escape, so kicked the door open and got the hell out of there. It's completely possible, though, that maybe it was related to the weather conditions. I try to look at things with a logical mind and try and find explanations before jumping to the conclusion that it was a ghost or something paranormal. And certainly, with the way the weather was that day, it's certainly plausible that was what was caused this situation. The only thing that I know for sure, though, out of that whole thing was that it was definitely, like I said, one of the scariest moments that I've had. So that is kind of the tone of the show this evening. We're going to be sharing more stories. That's just one of my experiences. We're joined by Curtis from Purgatory Adventures. If you haven't checked out the YouTube channel yet, please check it out. Just do a quick Google search for Purgatory Adventures and you'll find their content. We're going to talk with Curtis next here on The Curious Narrative, but first, we're going to go to a song, and that song is one and only, or by the one and only, Johnny Cash.
The Curious Narrative with Josh.
There ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna rise right out of the ground. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. Well, look way down the river, and what do you think I see? I see a band of angels, and they're coming after me. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. Well, look down yonder, Gabriel, put your feet on the land and see. But Gabriel, don't you blow your trumpet till you hear from me. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. Well, meet me, Jesus, meet me. Meet me in the middle of the air. And if these wings don't fail me, I will meet you anywhere. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. Well, meet me, mother and father. Meet me down the river road. And mama, you know that I'll be there when I check in my load. Ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down. There ain't no grave can hold my body down.
The Curious Narrative with Josh.
And there you have Johnny Cash with Ain't No Grave. Seemed like an appropriate song to start the show with, or start this interview off with. So I'm here with Curtis. We're going to talk a little bit about Curtis's experience as a paranormal investigator in Saskatchewan, but I do want to remind everybody that we're going to be taking calls at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show as well. So if you're in Saskatchewan, write this number down and get ready to call in when the time is right. The number is 306-400-3403. And if you're elsewhere, not in Saskatchewan, we have a toll-free number for you to call, and that's 1-877-229-5171. So, as I've been talking about all night long, it's ghosts. It's Ghost Night here on the Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. I'm here with Curtis from Purgatory Adventures. Hey, Curtis, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good to hear. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, cool. So, I think, we can start off comfortably by saying you are a paranormal investigator. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this field?
I got sorry, there's a bit of feedback coming through.
Okay, let's try that again.
Good.
Is that better?
It's way better, perfect.
Right.
I don't hear myself anymore. So I am a paranormal investigator. I've been investigating the paranormal for 9 years, and I've been doing purgatory adventures for 2 years. I got started 9 years ago, very first ever investigation. I went with Nathan, my uncle. We went to a place called Cradle Vein Homestead in Brandon, Manitoba. And it was one of the scariest investigations I've ever been on in my life. There was an absolutely bone-chilling investigation that changed my life, got me started doing this, chasing ghosts around Saskatchewan. And then I had one of the scariest things happen to me. I got attacked by a spirit at this location that we went to, and it changed my perspective on the paranormal field, and it inspired me to go out and start chasing all these haunted locations across Saskatchewan and uploading videos to my YouTube channel. So
do you think you fell into the category of a believer before you had this experience where you were attacked?
I had an open mind actually before. I was only 12. I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I went into this investigation. And then when I got attacked, it kind of made me a believer. I was like, wow, this is incredible. How can this happen? It made me want to go out and catch evidence to show other people that there is an afterlife. There's something out here, right?
I can't imagine being attacked. I know like I said a moment ago, I've been on a handful of paranormal investigations. I never saw anything while investigating. I heard lots of things. And I mean, some of those you could, chalk up to building sounds and things of that nature. Other things, I don't know what the heck it was. Mm-hmm. But when you talk or you say that you were attacked, do you mind sharing a little bit about what that attack looked like?
Sure. Yes, for sure. This attack happened. I was just walking to a different building. It was actually during the daytime, and I felt this like burning, like on my arm, and it was like burning like I've never experienced. It felt like I was on fire. And when I rolled up my sleeve, and I seen these like 3 like scratch marks that went down my arm, and within the scratch marks, I seen like blisters starting to form within. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced on any of my paranormal adventures that I've gone on. I've gone on 14, maybe 15 different locations, and that was one of the scariest things, something that stuck with me 9 years later. So
did the scars or the scratches, were they there long term, or did they disappear as quickly as quickly as they arrived, or were they there for a while?
They were there for probably about a minute or two, and then they were gone. It was just like nothing ever happened. Wow.
That's terrifying, I think. For me at least. I mean, maybe there are some folks listening here that have had similar experiences, but I think I would be a little worried. And terrified. Yeah. Curtis, I'm sitting here with Curtis on the Curious Narrative here on Cosmos Astrum Radio. Curtis is a paranormal investigator based in Saskatchewan. And Curtis, how many locations? I think you just kind of mentioned you've been to 14 or 15 locations.
Yeah,
for official investigations.
For official investigations, yes. So
where do you, or what location would you call the most active that you've been to?
Just for like the YouTube channel, or like altogether throughout my entire time being an investigator?
Let's go with altogether.
Altogether, my whole Cradle Farm, 100% hands down, one of the most active locations I've ever been to in my life.
I'm getting some messages here that we aren't hearing the guest here. So all that fun talking we're doing.
All that talking.
and
Oh,
nobody
oh.
heard. So you're getting the feedback again.
Yeah,
right?
I am. Yeah.
All right. Let me see. All right. You know what? Let's we'll try and figure this out. I'm gonna throw it to another song really quick, and we'll try and get that sorted. So hang tight, everybody. We're gonna come back with Curtis, but first we're gonna go to a song, and this time let's do something a little different, and we will jump to a very different decade. And here's Cemetery Drive by My Chemical Romance.
This night, walk the dead in a solitary stone, crash the cemetery gates in the dress your husband hates. Way down, mark the grave where the searchlights find us drinking by the mausoleum door. And they found you on the bathroom floor. I miss you so bad. And the collision of your kiss that made it so hard. Off the run, singing songs that make you slit your wrists. Staring down on
The Curious Narrative with Josh.
All right, we're back. Have we got these technical difficulties worked out? Let's find out. Curtis, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I
you
can hear
still
myself.
You're still getting feedback, though.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, how about now?
No, no feedback now.
Okay, and I see my meters are going off. That indicates people can hear you now. So if you can hear him and you're listening to this, please give me a note on Discord, or if you're on TikTok, let me know, and we'll see if we've got this sorted out. It's only our second show. We're working through the errors. I appreciate Curtis's patience, and I appreciate the patience of everybody who's listening tonight as well. This is The Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. My name is Josh, and we're joined by Curtis from Purgatory Adventures. Curtis was telling the most amazing stories before that last song, and only a small portion of the people listening got to hear it because of a technical difficulty. So, Curtis, maybe in a nutshell, we'll go back to the first question about telling us a little bit about how you got started as a paranormal investigator.
Okay, so I got started in the paranormal basically 9 years ago. I've been doing Purgatory Adventures for 2 years now, and I got started investigating a location called Cradle Vein Homestead. That was my very first ever investigation with my uncle 9 years ago. One of the scariest investigations I've ever been on in my life. That was the only location I've ever been to where a spirit has actually physically attacked me, and that was just one of the scariest experiences of my paranormal adventures.
Oh, Curtis, first of all, thanks for sharing that with us again.
Yeah,
But it looks like on Discord that everything is functioning as it should be. People can hear you.
perfect.
It
Nice.
looks like the consensus is we're just going to blame this on the ghosts.
All right, fair enough.
So we'll see what happens. Uh, Damn ghosts, as it says on Discord. And by the way, that's one way that you can participate and interact with us on the show too, is visit cosmosastrumradio.ca, click on the Discord server, and join the conversation that way as well. Curtis, before the break, you had talked a little bit about some of the locations that you have investigated. Do you mind giving us a bit of a rundown on maybe your top five, or let's go with top three locations in the interest
Top
of time?
three. This is my favorite. So my number one favorite location I've been to has been the Tommy Douglas building. And that's one we actually recently revisited, and we actually spent another night investigating the paranormal at that location. That is a very haunted location. I would probably say the most haunted in Saskatchewan that we've been to out of the 14, 15 different places we've been to in Saskatchewan. I'd say that one's probably number one. And then my number two, my second most favorite was the Moosehead Inn. We went there, we investigated. One of my absolute dreams when I first started getting into the paranormal. It was always my dream one day to investigate the Moosehead Inn. And then when I started my YouTube channel, that was one top of the list. We wanted to go there. I called, they said, yeah, you can come do an investigation. So we went there and we caught some absolutely incredible evidence and absolutely amazing. My third most favorite location would be uh, the Alameda District Museum. Uh, Again, another amazing location that I loved. It was great. I loved that one. So,
The Actually, I was just watching your YouTube channel over the last week here, and I noticed that you had mentioned obviously the Moosehead Inn at Kenosi Lake, which unfortunately burned down.
yes.
I think it was just about a year ago now.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you revisited the location.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on a situation where we have a building like the Moosehead Inn that was kind of famous for having some paranormal activity
Mhm.
inside of it? Now that building is gone, it's just, an empty lot where it once stood. Do you think the spirits stay attached to that land, or do they move on maybe to another location? What is your perspective? Do you have any insight on that?
So I believe that if another building were to be built on that property, that whatever spirits were attached there may or may not haunt that building, whatever gets placed in that area. Either that or it's going to go to one of the surrounding buildings around it.
Are you familiar of any situations where a spirit has maybe moved from one building to the other following the demolition?
Uh, I would probably say I've heard the Weyburn Mental Hospital, that the Weyburn Mental Hospital, when it got torn down, there's houses there now. I've heard stories about spirits going into those houses that are there now and haunting those buildings. But that's just what I've heard. Not
And
sure if
that's in
that's in Weyburn.
Pennsylvania?
No, in Weyburn.
Wait, oh, okay. I
Yeah,
was
the
thinking
mental
of
hospital.
Waverly Hills, and
Oh no,
which is, I think that's in the United States, if I remember correctly.
no.
So clearly you've been to quite a few places in Saskatchewan. Is there, this is a two-part question. So are there locations in Saskatchewan that are kind of on your wish list to investigate? And then that same question, but on a global scale, if you could visit anywhere in the world and conduct a paranormal investigation, where would you go?
Anywhere in the world? There's just so many I want to go to. One that's on the top of my list would probably be Winchester Mystery House. That would
That's
be
the top of my list too.
top of my list. Really want to go there and spend the night and sleep in that location. That'd be great. That'd be awesome. And then in Saskatchewan, my gosh, there's so many I want to go to. Probably the Ghost Lights, St. Louis Ghost Lights. That's one I really want to go to and check out.
That's a location that I have visited, I think, on 4 or 5 occasions, and never did see the light. I honestly don't know if I was ever in the right spot, but it was fun, just the road trip to be with buddies and, head out there and explore. But circling back around, for those that are just tuning in, this is The Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. I'm Josh, and I'm joined tonight by Curtis from Purgatory Adventures, a Saskatchewan-based paranormal investigation team. If you want to see some spooky videos from right here in Saskatchewan, check out their YouTube channel. Just give Purgatory Adventures a quick search, and you will have access to a wide variety of entertainment. And I think your tagline is it "Don't plan to sleep tonight" or something along those lines?
Don't plan on sleeping tonight. That's our tagline.
There's the warning. Curtis, when you do an investigation, what kind of equipment do you take with you?
Oh, we have so many. We use spirit boxes. We have a SLS camera. So basically what that device does, it's simply just a Xbox 360 Kinect camera that I've mounted onto a sort of tripod that we walk around that's connected to a Windows 10 tablet that I use a program that Microsoft gives out for free that maps in the figures. And we've caught some incredible evidence, especially at a location that we've recently returned to. That was the Alameda District Museum. I caught some amazing evidence with that. It was the first time we ever used that new portable device. We've used that before, but it was in a different form. So it was awesome to see that new piece of equipment in action. So,
do you have a favorite piece of equipment?
Yes, by far the spirit box. That is one of my most favorite pieces of equipment. I've caught some absolutely amazing evidence with that piece of device. It's just such a wonderful tool to use in the paranormal field. I like the moose head especially. I'll never forget that spirit box response. If anyone's familiar with the moose head, you'll know that Archibald Granison was the previous owner of that location, and we caught that name coming through the spirit box, and it blew us away. And it's clear as day. You can hear it. There's no question. So,
is there a place that folks could listen to that evidence if they wanted to? Is it on your YouTube channel?
It's on my YouTube channel, Purgatory Adventures, and it'll be part 3 on the Moosehead Inn videos.
Awesome. Well, there you go, folks. There's something cool to tune into. Curtis, a couple more questions for you, and then we're going to go to another song before we open things up for listener calls. So when you go to a location for the first time for an investigation, what's your process? How do you go through a first time investigation at a new location?
Personally, I love new locations because it feels like it's like a new chapter in our investigation. It's like opening to a new page in a book, right? You never know what's going to happen, right? And you never know who you're going to meet. So when we go to these locations, we never know who we're going to meet. We never know who we're going to interview. And it's just so amazing to hear people's stories and the history on the location. And I love that part. It's one of my favorite parts is going to a new place and hearing all the stories and listening to all people's experiences that they've had. It's one of my favorite parts.
That's what I like too. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good teaser for folks who are listening that maybe want to share some of their ghost stories with us. Again, we are here to talk about the paranormal. I've shared one of my stories. Curtis has shared some of his experiences. And I know you listening, I know you guys have some stories too that you would like to share. So we want to hear your stories tonight. So give us a call. If you're in Saskatchewan, the number is 306 400-3403. If you are outside of Saskatchewan but still want to give us a call, the number is 1-877-229-5171, and that's a toll-free line. We're going to go to another song, and when we come back, we're going to open things up for your call. So don't wait. Give us a call now, because when this song is over, you could be the first one to share your ghost story here on The Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. But before we get to that, we're going to go to this song that I really love, and I've been listening to it on repeat for the last, probably 2 months at least. It's a band from California known as Townland, and this is their song, Eyesore. And that's Eyesore by Townland on The Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. I hope you like that song, because it definitely is one of my faves, and it's cool to be able to share that with folks. So, for those of you that are just joining us, we are here on The Curious Narrative on Cosmos Astrum Radio. We are chatting with Curtis from Purgatory Adventures, a Saskatchewan-based paranormal investigation team. And we have shared a bit of our experiences, or some of our experiences, around paranormal investigations. And now we want to hear your stories. And they don't have to be about paranormal investigations. They could certainly just be about your ghost stories. I mean, I think many of us have had ghost stories or ghost experiences or unexplainable experiences. So give us a call and share that experience with us. Our phone number, if you're in Saskatchewan, is 306-400-3403. If you're outside of Saskatchewan, the toll-free number is 1-877-229-5171. Curtis, so we'll have a bit of a conversation until we get our first phone call. And so when you set out on an investigation, are there certain criteria that you explore or that you try to meet before you say, hey, we're going to go to that space?
Like before we go and investigate?
Yeah.
Well, yes, there is. I always try to find like some sort of documented paranormal activity at a location. I try to find online like reports and other people that have been there and see what they capture before I just go to a place, because I don't like to just go to a location and waste that time, that effort to get in there to catch nothing. That's one thing I don't want to do. So I always make sure that before I go to a place, I found some reports, I found some people that have had experiences there before I just go. Or in a case where there is no reports, we like to go there before our investigation, and we like to feel the energy, feel what's there. If we believe there's something there, then I'll put that effort and that time into finding that location and finding the people I need to get in contact with to go there. So there's a big process sometimes to go to a place.
When you say that you feel energy and stuff, would you consider yourself to have some sort of intuitive ability, or is there just something else about the space that
no, I wouldn't.
Kind of a sixth sense?
I wouldn't say that. When you've been doing this long enough, like I've been doing this 9 years, I just know when there's a spirit near me. I know when there's spirits around me. I know when there's a spirit, a very powerful spirit in a location. And if I feel that very powerful force there, then I know that we're going to catch some evidence here. So we're going to go there. So
when you are out on location, do you ever feel, or I guess, have you ever been to a location where there's nothing? You set up, you gear up and prepare for an investigation, but all you hear are crickets. Has that ever happened?
Yes, it has. And when that happens, we don't post. Simple as that.
Yeah, I bet that.
It actually did happen once to us. We went to a place called the Nicole Flats Homestead. We got the okay. We went down to the valley. It's in the Coppell Valley in the middle of nowhere. And the only thing we caught were coyotes, crickets, and rain. So it was, I caught one of the coolest photographs ever, though, from that place, but caught no activity. So.
Well, I guess if you ever wanted to branch out into the world of ASMR, you picked up a lot of appropriate audio for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, first, I guess, let's just remind folks that we are taking your phone call. So if you want to share some of your ghost stories or some of your paranormal experiences with me and with Curtis, feel free to give us a call. Our number again is 306-400-3403. And if you're outside of Saskatchewan, there's a toll-free number, and that is 1-877-229-5171. Curtis, when you head out to a new location, do you just go directly to the site, or do you try and explore like the area around it? And I know you mentioned you like to interview and chat with people. So do you try and talk with folks that maybe live in the community and kind of get some of their experiences, hear what's going through the grapevine, I guess is a way to put it?
Yes, we did that once, actually. We went to the Screaming House. We just walked literally down Main Street and just interviewed anyone that wanted to talk to us, see if they had any creepy experiences. And we met some awesome people doing it that way. And, some people have had some awesome experiences there. And it was great to hear those stories and to see what the locals had to say about that place.
How do people react when you approach them about the paranormal? Do you get a lot of weird looks, or are people
Yes.
more usually willing to kind of, willing to share their stories with you?
For the most part, people are willing. People are actually very interested, which is the complete opposite reaction I thought people were going to have when I first started doing this. I thought people were going to be like, "What? That's so weird," just wanted nothing to do with us. But what I found is that was the complete opposite. People were very interested and intrigued and wanted us to come check out to find out exactly what was there. And there's just a few people that did find it quite weird, and it was a bit of a strange interaction with them. But for the most part, people have found it very, very intriguing and very interesting. So
That's cool. And I really do believe, I mean, obviously there are going to be people who don't believe in it, and that's fine. That's a-okay. But I think there are a lot of people who have had experiences that, maybe don't want to share it just yet. And that's okay too. But I like to imagine that there are many tales out there that we haven't heard yet.
exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any, because we all, well, maybe not all of us, but many of us have watched a ghost hunting show or two in our time. Certainly shows like Ghost Hunters. I forget what Zach Bagans' show is called now, but he has quite a collection of shows. I know other TV shows. One of my favorites was called Destination Truth. That was hosted by Josh Gates. And he has gone on to do some other shows as well. So there is no shortage of paranormal investigation TV shows and teams for that matter. Are there any teams out there that are maybe well known that you kind of look to as inspiration when you want to get out there and learn new things? Do you turn to them for pointers or to see what they're up to?
Yeah, there are some that I look at and I get some inspiration from our channel from, Ghost Adventures being one. And another show that I look to is Destination Fear. I watch them. They're pretty cool. And I look for them and I get some inspiration to add into my channel. And, of course, we do our own Purgatory Adventures twist on it. But those are the two that I probably look to.
Cool. When you are putting your videos together, because I tuned into one of your live streams on YouTube a few weeks ago, and that's actually how we connected.
Yeah.
So do you, how long, and you talked a little bit in this live feed about your process about editing, and it can take hours to put videos
days
together. So tell us a little bit about that process. How do you go about that? Obviously you have to film and record everything.
Yes.
And then do you review the footage before you start editing, or do you just kind of edit and review as you go?
I edit and review as I go, actually. It makes it a lot quicker. If I were to review everything and then edit it, I would be there for days. I'd be there for days. I don't have days, I've only got, I work all the time, right? So I only have a few hours after and before work to get to work on this video. And then on my days off, I'm just editing and editing. So I don't have time to do that. If I did, I would 100% look through the 7-8 hours of film that there's a lot, and I would look to see if we captured figures and stuff, but for the most part I just kind of skim through and I find the highlighted moments and then I add those in and I make it look good. And
So do you have a favorite part of the editing process? Is it the end?
Yes, the end. The end is my favorite part. I love that the sleeping over where it's filming us and all the stuff is happening around us and we're reacting to it, and then we're sleeping and we're hearing all these banging and like stuff throwing around us as we're sleeping. And every time I edit, I'm always looking and I'm like, how do we sleep in these places? How do we not wake up to this? And why do we keep doing this? It's just my favorite part by far.
So we had talked a little bit earlier about some of your scary experiences. And when we talked a little while ago, I asked you what scares you. So you've been doing this for a while now.
9 years.
Yeah. So in that time, you've probably had some frightening experiences, but what scares you the most? Do you still get scared?
On most of the normal investigations, I don't. When the only times I get really scared is when we're going up against something evil, an evil entity, something that's demonic in nature. Those are the only times I am absolutely terrified, because when you go up against those types of spirits, you run the risk of attachments, and which can follow you home, and they can cause harm to you at your house, which is by far the scariest part about any paranormal investigation we've ever gone on, is spirits following us home. Because when you're at home, it's your safe haven, right? But when they follow you to your house and they start like throwing stuff around your house and turning off lights, and you're like, wow, this is absolutely terrifying. It's scary. It's different when you go out finding it, but when the ghosts come back to find you, that's when it's a whole different ballgame. That's when it's absolutely terrifying, and that's the part I do not like about paranormal investigations.
Has that happened to you?
Yes, it has very much happened, and I will tell you about an investigation that happened to me just after Cradle Farm. I went to a location. A buddy of mine told me about a house that he used to live in. It was a very, very haunted house. I went in that location with him, expecting nothing to happen. It was going to be a quiet location, and I've never experienced anything like that in my life. There was stuff flying around the room. There was doors opening and closing, audible voices yelling at us. And I just remember like cupboards opening and closing. And like we had a recorder sitting on the ground, and it like slid across the ground. And my buddy, he got actually attacked at that location. It wasn't me. It was my buddy. He got like clawed or something. I don't even know how to explain it. And then when I went home after that investigation, whatever was there and attacked him came and followed me to my house and started doing those types of things in my own home. And when you're only 13, 14, you don't know how to deal with that. It was that one of the most terrifying parts of investigating. It almost made me quit doing it entirely. It was just absolutely terrifying.
No kidding. So how do you deal with that then? How did you find safety again?
How did I find safety? Actually, what I would do, I would wake up in the middle of the night. I would know that the presence was there. I could feel it, right? I've been doing it already for a few years. I know what the presence is like. Stuff would start happening, and I would grab my Bible and I would start reading from it, and I would tell it to go away, and I'd start reading, and eventually it would go away. I did that for, I think, 4 months. And then after that, it just stopped. It was just gone. I don't know why. It just went away, and it has never come back. So it was terrifying.
No kidding. And how long ago was that?
Oh, that was 7 years ago.
Do you ever worry that it will come back?
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day.
Have you done anything to prepare for that should it happen?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I suspect that might be a personal question, so I won't ask what you've done.
Yeah.
So we are winding down for our time here today. So, Curtis, I'm just wondering if there's anybody listening who is maybe interested in jumping into the world of paranormal investigations. What advice would you give to anybody who maybe wants to give this a shot?
I would say be very careful, because when you go on an investigation, you never know what you're going to connect with. And it could be very well a very dangerous entity. So when you go on these investigations, you got to be very, very careful on how you approach them. Just be nice, be polite, and you should be fine. Just, ask questions, don't don't start swearing at them or anything like that. Just be polite, and then you'll be fine. So.
Well, this has been a fantastic conversation tonight, Curtis. Thank you for being here, and hopefully our paths will cross again at some point. So let's stay in touch.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, cool.
This has been great.
Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah.
So everybody who has tuned in tonight to listen to episode 2 of The Curious Narrative, I do appreciate the fact that you have taken a little bit of time out of your evening to be here with us. Thanks to everybody who helps put this show together. Because again, as you can see, no matter how much we tried to tackle the technical difficulties, we still had a couple of this show. But we're still working through things. We'll figure it out, and we're only going to get better from here. So again, thanks to everybody back at the Madutu Studios. I hope you guys are raising those solo cups and having a blast. We're going to end the show tonight with a song. This is a surprise song because I usually pick my songs up, but because of our technical difficulties, I used up my playlist for tonight's show already. So we're going to follow Matt's lead from the Hump Day party earlier today, and he played a lot of Rammstein. So we're going to end tonight's episode of The Curious Narrative with another Rammstein song. I hope he didn't play it. I think I caught most of the Hump Day show, but if I didn't, you get to enjoy this song. It's so nice you get to hear it twice. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Wednesday, and we're actually going to be talking about Sasquatch sightings in Canada. We're going to be joined by somebody from the Trent University Sasquatch Club. So tune in next Wednesday at 9 p.m. on Cosmos Astrum Radio, and thanks for listening to The Curious Narrative.
Und ich hab nichts gesagt.